What do you do when your breakup or divorce is so fresh, so raw, that it overwhelms every part of your life? It takes away and drains every part of your energy. In this video, you'll walk away with 3 tangible things to focus on during this time of processing and grieving the end of your relationship. So, chances are, if you are fresh off a breakup or a divorce, maybe even blindsided by it, then you're probably feeling intense sadness, maybe even depressed. Maybe you've lost a sense of hope. Maybe you don't feel motivated to do anything. Or you might be in a total state of chaos, maybe ruminating in anger, resentment, betrayal, abandonment. And the only way that you're going to be able to move through this stage of your breakup with peace and confidence is if you follow the 3 steps that I'm going to share with you today. My name is Emmi Fortin, and I am here to guide you through your journey of healing heartbreak towards clarity and unwavering self-love. I am a former biology teacher turned breakup and relationship coach, all because of a tumultuous relationship that I was involved in the past. And now I've worked with hundreds of hours with people, helping them alchemize their love life, which means I help them transform their pain or the challenges around this breakup experience and turn it into an immense opportunity for growth, for moving forward, and just for changing the trajectory of your life for the better. So, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure you watch to the end because we want to make sure that you're taking what you're learning in this video and you're turning it into actionable steps that you can implement in real time, starting now, starting today, starting tomorrow, so that you can actually make progress and not continue to wallow in where you are right now. The first thing that I will share with you regarding what you can do, where you can focus your energy if you're fresh off a breakup or a divorce, is emotionally purging. Now, you're probably naturally inclined to do this right now anyway. You might have been crying a lot lately. You might have been talking to friends or family about what you're going through, or you might be internalizing it. But the first thing that we really want to focus on in this stage is actually a lot less doing and a lot less distracting yourself and just being with yourself in these uncomfortable emotions. Now, I know it doesn't feel fun to have to kind of stay in these emotions, and I'm not saying you should wallow there, but it is really, really important to your healing process that you take a moment to acknowledge and be aware of everything that you're feeling. Otherwise, you might end up being kind of stuck in these emotions, and it's almost like your body puts those emotions away and stores them in different areas of your body, just almost like we're burying them, and they will show up again later, either as a physical ailment or in another relationship when you're getting triggered from similar things. They will show up, and so we have to get them out. In fact, naming your emotions specifically, okay, not just saying a generalized term, but being very specific about identifying your emotions actually reduces the intensity of the emotion and therefore allows us to feel less overwhelmed. There's a sense of relief that we get just by identifying how we feel. In a survey of 7,000 Americans, the very popular researcher Brené Brown found that on average, people could only name 3 feelings that they experienced while experiencing them, and those were anger, sadness, and happiness. This is only the surface level of what you are going through. And so, what you need to do is you need to diversify your emotional vocabulary and really, really identify it to a pinpoint. And I'll give you an example of this. When I work with women and men as a breakup and relationship coach, the very first thing that I help them with is identifying how they feel. What exactly are they struggling with? Name 3 to 5 emotions that you're experiencing right now. Sometimes they can rattle off a few. Usually those three are in there, well, not happiness, but usually anger is in there, usually sadness is in there. But then when I probe a little bit more, I ask them, okay, well, why is it that you feel angry? Or, can you elaborate on, why you feel sad? There's usually a lot underneath those kind of umbrella feelings that is going to give us clues about how we can better care for ourselves. The more we can understand how we're feeling and what we're going through, the better off we can identify our needs in that moment and moving forward, which then helps us to make the right choices for ourselves. So we might choose something that is more supportive rather than going for a distraction if we know exactly what the underlying problem or issue is. Sometimes when I'm working with people, I'll kind of ask them questions and guide them and prompt them until we finally reach this exact identification of how they're feeling. And I'll say something like, okay, so I hear you telling me that you're angry, but from what you told me, it sounds like you actually feel really betrayed by your partner because they just aren't showing up for you and they just left. Is that accurate? And they'll be like, yes, that's what it is. I feel betrayed. And I can tell you from so much experience that as soon as they pinpoint the exact underlying emotion, there's like an immense release. There's a relief right there because in that moment, they feel seen, heard, and understood by me. But also, if you're doing this on your own, you can feel that from yourself. You're like, wow, it's this realization, this light bulb moment, this awareness that happens that really allows you to be more connected with what you're going through. And so this is a really important piece of the healing puzzle, and it's a great place to start. So what I usually do when I'm working with people, of course, I work with them one-on-one and we talk through it, but I also give them these kind of exploration exercises. One of them is a free write where you can do this as well. You just write in your journal in a stream of consciousness everything that you're feeling, going through, and for some people, this is really easy. It's just kind of like a dump of everything that you're feeling and thinking. And this is a good way to emotionally purge. It's to let out all of the thoughts, all of the emotions that you're going through. Here's the thing though. Again, we want to focus on being as specific as possible with how we're feeling. So, in the exercise, when I work with people, I also supply them with a long kind of sheet that has many, many other words for kind of the umbrella words. So, for example, words that also can mean anger, and then there's like a big long list. Words that can also mean or be related to sadness, and then there's a really long list. And so when they can read through the words, maybe they can't recall it on their own, but when they see the list, they're like, oh yes, that's the one that I'm really feeling. Now, you might not have that list right now if you're not working with me, but what you can do as kind of a hack, I love to use this trick whenever I'm writing. Is that you can just open Google and type in the word synonyms for anger or whatever, emotion that you're feeling. And then it will give you a whole list. And then you can just kind of go through, skim through, pick out the ones that resonate with you most. So there's a hack for you for the free write. And then after you've kind of done this dump, you can either go back and read it. I recommend to people I work with to go through and look for any patterns, any repetition. Were there any words that you used multiple times? Were there any parts of this kind of narrative that you just wrote that have happened to you other times in your life? You can start to draw connections to different relationships that you've had in the past, maybe relationships you have with family members or things that happened to you, when you were younger in school with teachers, and just start to notice if there's any parallels. Maybe there are, maybe there are not, but it's a good way to just start exploring why you're having such a strong reaction, what that reaction feels like and looks like, and it can help us figure out how we can kind of move forward. So the free write is one way. Some people have a hard time sitting down and just writing. They're like, I don't know what to write about. And so, or maybe you write about the same exact thing every time. You're like, yeah, every day I'm writing about how angry I am. So, in order to kind of take a different path or invite your mind to go down a new road, some people enjoy prompts. I call this guided journaling. There's a million journals on Amazon. If you just Google the specific or type in the search for Amazon the exact kind of prompts that you want, there's so many journals out there. I created one specifically with prompts to help people through breakups and divorces, just because when I was searching on there, they all were kind of centered around more general topics or things that weren't specific to this very, very unique time in your life. So if you're interested, I do have this breakup and divorce self-renewal journal. It has prompts, affirmations, and reflection questions to help you think about what you're going through in new and different ways. So again, we're trying to create these different pathways of things for you to reflect on and bring into your awareness, so you're not just writing the same thing every single day or talking about how miserable you feel every single day. It's getting you to expand your mind a little bit. The ultimate goal is that we want you to be able to see things differently. So this is specifically, for like breakups and divorces. If you're looking more for something to help you with embracing yourself more, loving yourself more, because a lot of my clients come to me and they tell me that they have extremely low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and it's something they want to grow just because of the impact of that relationship. Then I also have this other guided journal called the Love Being You guided journal, and it's 365 prompts to help you reflect, grow, and elevate in 12 areas of your life. So it will not only help you with self-love, but it will get you thinking about all of the areas of your life. Maybe the things that are happening in your relationship are actually showing up in different areas of your life. I actually find that a lot. What's happening in our relationships is also showing up in our work, is also showing up in our personal life, with our friends, with our family. Everything is interconnected. So I'll put those links in the description. I have some other journals as well. They might speak to you. But again, any guided journal might help you to just kind of start the writing and the flow process and getting you to release and purge what's inside of you. Hey, if you are enjoying this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. And also I invite you to check out my Love Alchemy membership. It is an exciting membership where you get to alchemize your Love 3 life. So how can you better love yourself, love your relationships, and love your life? In Love Alchemy, I teach you how to transform your challenges and your struggles into opportunities so that you can make progress, move forward, restore your innate vibrance, and really wake up excited for each day. In the membership, you will find exploration exercises, actual reflection exercises like homework that you can do on your own, one-on-one work with me so that we can kind of hash through the realizations from those exercises, and tangible action steps week after week that you can implement in real time to help you make life-changing shifts rather than just show up week after week and talk about your problems. This is really an actionable, tangible way for you to be able to make a lot of change in your life in a short amount of time, while also having the space to process, be vulnerable, be heard and seen, and really just to feel supported and connected. If you want to learn more about the Love Alchemy membership, there is a wait list. So we start off with a relationship assessment call. And when I say relationship, I mean the relationship to yourself, to other relationships, and to life. We kind of target what your main challenges are, basically your point A, your struggles, where you want to get to, your point B, and we talk about what some of your next steps can be to get there, and if the membership would be aligned for you and you aligned for it. So you can find that link in the description, and I really look forward to chatting with you. Another way that you can purge is to write personal narrative vignettes. This is what I personally did after I had journaled for quite some time. I was going through such a rough time in that tumultuous relationship in the past that I wrote a lot. And most of my writing, as I was just kind of describing, when I started out, it was starting as mostly the same thing all the time. It was how miserable I felt. It was like how upset I was with, my ex for whatever he was or wasn't doing. I felt so out of control, right? And so I was writing about the same thing all the time. But this all changed when I started writing differently. I started writing little vignettes. Would call them little mini stories, and I would write them in the third person. And so, whatever I was kind of working through emotionally, I would create a story around it where I was a character and I was writing about myself in the third person. I was writing about my ex in the third person. And that was really, really, really cathartic, but it was also giving me a unique perspective because I was looking at myself through the lens of an onlooker versus that first person being in my head. So I still was able to fill it with tons of emotion. I mean, while I was writing those stories, a lot of times tears were like pouring out of my eyeballs, and that's because it was cathartic. But it was also getting me to um, almost take on more of a creative element. And creativity is the door to expansion. It gets you to see things in a new way. Now, ultimately, these different vignettes that I was writing through these different experiences with this person eventually led me to kind of craft a memoir and string all those stories together for one longer cohesive story. Now, do you need to write a memoir or like a book about yourself? No, absolutely not. I'm just telling you where that path led me. I never thought I would be an author, and I ended up publishing my kind of spicy memoir about that tumultuous relationship, and that entire process was so helpful for my healing journey. You don't have to go through the whole thing of writing a book, but the little vignettes is an interesting way, a different way that you might not have tried yet to incorporate writing in your emotional purge. So that's another thing that I do help people with. If you're interested, you can leave me a comment, ask me any questions. It's something I'm also really passionate about because it played such a big role in my life. All right, so that was the first thing. The first thing was to emotionally purge. The second thing that you can focus on when you're going through a breakup or divorce and everything is just so fresh and overwhelming and raw is you need to reconnect with your physical body. During this time, you are spending so much time in your head, rehashing scenarios, replaying memories, having this kind of circuit of negative thoughts repeating over and over and over in your head. It's called ruminating, right? And it's taking up all of your bandwidth. And so we need to get you out of your mind. We need to bring you out of your mind and drop you back into your physical body. So there's a few different reasons why this is important. The number one mistake people make is trying to logic or think their way through their emotional pain, through this pain and suffering. And I used to do this too, right? I would just spend so much time thinking about like, well, if I had only done this differently, or if this was different, then everything would be fine, everything would be perfect. You're just using your analytical mind too much. And so a lot of people, they'll spend hours and hours in therapy and they won't be focusing on their physical body, which actually holds so much information. Your body holds emotion. It holds memories. In fact, there's so much research that shows this, and a really, really great book for this is a great resource. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's by a very intelligent researcher, and it talks about the connection between the brain, the mind, and the body in the healing of trauma. Now, trauma can be all different kinds of things. And basically, anytime that you're going through a situation that is too much for your mind to handle, it's considered a type of trauma. And one really great way to learn more about this is from a podcast episode that I did, my podcast L3 Philosophy. I interviewed a trauma-informed therapist, also an author and doctor of Ayurveda. Her name is Janine Rashidi, and I really suggest that you go and watch our interview because we talk about ways to kind of break through trauma and triggers. And a lot of it incorporates practices that you can do with your body. It's so important for us to involve our body in deconstructing the response that it's having to triggers in our environment. So there are stimuli outside of ourselves. So there's the stimulus inside our head, which is our thoughts, right? But there's also the outside stimuli that remind us of this person. Maybe it's a certain meal that we used to eat together, or it's their favorite meal. Maybe it's a song that brings you right back to an intense moment that you shared or a memory. Maybe it's seeing certain people that you are mutually friends with, or maybe you still talk to their family members, right? There's so many things that can bring us back into the moment where your body actually thinks you're in that moment, even though you're not. And it's because you're having a response. And so we have to know how to involve the body with deconstructing that response, which is a form of a stress response, really. And what happens is that you're living in this heightened state of stress. As humans, we normally have a stress response that brings us into a heightened state. And then what we're supposed to do is come back down to balance, come back down to relaxation and a state of peace. But what happens way too much is that we're in a chronic state of stimulated stress. And so we never actually get to let the response complete itself. We just stay at the peak. We never get to let it finish. And so, in addition to deconstructing that stress response due to triggers that are around us or in our heads, we also have to teach our physical body how to rewire itself and have a different response. How can we teach our bodies to have a more peaceful response, or like a go-to reflex to a stressful response? We need to incorporate that rewiring as well. So definitely go and watch that episode. I think you'll really find it so helpful. But also, one way, I'm just going to give you some ways that you can connect with yourself physically. So another reason to involve your body, before I give you these ways to do it, is just from a pure biology standpoint. Now, again, I mentioned that I was a high school bio teacher for 16 years, and so I am passionate about how the body works on a cellular level. And if we think about some of the symptoms that we have when we're going through a breakup or divorce, I don't know about you, but in the past, I have been absolutely exhausted. It's like all I want to do is sleep. I am not motivated. I don't have energy, right? And so the number one thing you can do is supply your body with internal energy, not taking an energy supplement, an energy drink, or caffeine, but actually creating energy from the inside out. And movement helps you do this. Breathing helps you do this. And here's why. I know that you've heard this probably a million times. Exercise is good for you. Do your deep breathing. But why? From a biology standpoint, in order for your cells to make energy, it's this little energy molecule called ATP, your body and your cells require oxygen. If you're thinking about a recipe, right? The recipe to make energy for your cells is a really, really high quality form of food, which is glucose, but like a naturally pure sourced one, not from processed food. You want to get a nice, healthy source of your glucose. And the other ingredient is oxygen. So oxygen is in the air we breathe. That's why deep breathing brings in the ingredients, brings it to your cells, your heart and your circulatory system, deliver it to all of your cells, all of your tissues, including your brain, and it supplies those cells with oxygen. supplies those cells with the natural glucose or sugar that you are providing it, so that your cells can transform that into this energy molecule called ATP. When you have more energy available, then you feel more energized. So all of that is to say, like, I'm really trying to give you some examples here of, I know you've heard exercise is good for me, deep breathing is good for me, but I want you to understand why. I know that when I understand things on a more kind of detailed level, I'm more apt to do them because I get it. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So movement is another way that you can help bring in more oxygen to your body, because when you're moving, you're using more energy. It makes your breathing rate increase, which helps you bring in more oxygen and circulate it more throughout your body. Okay? So there's so many different kinds of movement that you can do, and trust me, I understand that when you are going through a breakup or a divorce and you're feeling depressed, it's really hard to motivate yourself to go exercise or to move at all. I mean, I even felt like it was too much energy to take deep breaths. So there's lots of different ways that you can start with movement. I was a Zumba instructor for 10 years, and so I did that on purpose. Like, I knew that if I was a student, I could easily cancel and just be like, I'm not going to go. But as the instructor, I had to show up. So however you can make yourself show up for movement, whether it's an accountability buddy, a friend, if you are actually an instructor of movement, if you can figure out a way to hold yourself accountable and make it fun. Like, if you're going with a friend, if you're going to a class where you know the people every day or every week, you can build community there, and it could be more encouraging for you to feel that sense of support, and that, well, so-and-so is going to know if I don't show up, and, then you can hold each other accountable. So anyway, I was a Zumba instructor, and that really helped me show up for movement when I didn't feel like it, because I had to go. But then another thing that I started over a decade ago when I was going through that really hard time was a yoga practice. Now, yoga was not something that I was drawn to. I didn't like it originally, but I knew that yoga was a slower practice than I had been used to. I was used to dancing and loud music and, lots of intense movement, which is also great. But I knew yoga would offer me something different. It would offer me deep breathing. It would offer me slower movements, longer holds, poses that were restorative and great for my body's flexibility. So it was really a way to kind of get connected with myself and my body in a slower, more intentional way. So yoga has been huge on my journey. I actually just shared a video about a 7-day yoga retreat that I went to in Mexico, and some of the things that I brought back with me as far as what I learned and what we can incorporate into our everyday lives that we learn from the practice of yoga and just from doing a practice in general. So please feel free to go check out that video. You might enjoy it. I'll also link that in the description. When you're doing different forms of movement, and there's so many different types, choose one that you like. Even going for a walk is huge. There's lots of studies that show that people who go for walks, are actually much happier and have lower levels of stress. So another thing that I figured I would just share another little quick story about movement is, like, a lot of times it's like, oh, I don't have time to do exercise or to go do this thing. I was a high school teacher, and we only had 3 minutes in between our classes. And when I was feeling so much overwhelm emotionally, like, there were so many times during the day where I just wanted to, like, break out into tears, but I couldn't because I had a classroom full of kids sitting in front of me. So in between classes, on my 3-minute break, sometimes I would just go to the private bathroom that was right next to my room. I would take my phone, I would bring my earbuds, and I would listen to my favorite song that I loved to dance to. And I would just dance in the bathroom by myself for 1 or 2 minutes to change my state. It's all about changing your state, and movement can do that. Bringing in oxygen can do that. Sometimes I would be dancing and crying at the same time. It's okay. You're just doing something to help yourself change your state and purge. Okay, so that's my little story. I give you permission to go into a private bathroom and dance or cry, whatever, do them both. It's really important to the healing process, to this beginning process, especially when you're grieving. All right, so that was points 1 and 2. The third thing that I'm going to invite you to focus your energy on is self-care. Take care of yourself with patience and love. So you hear this term a lot, okay, this term self-care. And I want to expand with you on what that means. Because yes, self-care can mean primping and pruning, like, going to the spa, having a massage, getting your nails done. Absolutely. However, I'm going to invite you to really go deeper with the self-care. I want you to care for yourself as you would care for a friend who is sitting next to you, heartbroken. I mean, you are going to have empathy for that person. You are going to give that person a hug, maybe, if you're a hugger. Maybe you're not a hugger, but you're going to cook them a meal instead. Like, you are going to treat them with so much love and acceptance. And that is how I want you to view self-care. Sometimes self-care is actually doing actions, but a lot of times self-care is just kind of giving yourself the grace to accept that you are at a really hard point A and you are in a process to make progress toward point B. There's no timeline. You don't have to do this within a specific time frame. Everyone is different, and you are going to be making your way along this path at your own pace. So another thing about the self-care piece is that when we're going through a breakup, we can really feel abandoned because somebody might have left us. Or maybe we broke up with the other person and now we're alone. We feel very lonely, right? And so we have that external feeling of abandonment, but a lot of times we actually had abandoned ourselves a long time ago. We can abandon ourselves through many different ways. And sometimes that looks like not setting boundaries that are supportive to us. That's abandoning ourselves because we're abandoning our needs, because we're trying to cater to somebody else. We may have abandoned ourselves because we stopped checking in with our emotions and what we truly wanted and desired. Maybe we kind of were settling for something that wasn't making us happy or fulfilled or sparked with excitement for life. That's abandoning yourself. And there's so many different forms that it can take. There's so many different behaviors that it can look like. And I encourage you to think about, what are small ways that I cannot abandon myself from day to day? What's one small thing that I can do every day to show myself that I've got my own back? I am here. Even if there's no one else here taking care of me. Maybe if there's no one else here listening to how I feel, I am here. I have my back. I can listen to myself and I can express myself. Why is this important? Because over time, abandoning yourself leads to low self-worth. It's basically telling yourself, I am not important enough. I am not enough of a priority to really show up and give myself what I need. Okay, sometimes when we outsource for the things we need, we put ourselves in a victim role, and we don't want to stay there because that is not a place of power. It is not a place of empowerment. So when we're not taking care of ourselves in many different ways, we are essentially telling ourselves that we don't matter, that everything else is more important, that we are not loved, that we're not enough. Why this is important is because when you show yourself that you can care for yourself in the way that you need, it shows you that you can trust yourself. And trust is an underlying quality of self-confidence. People don't understand that. When they come to me and they say, I really need to build my confidence, it's because they don't trust themselves in one or more areas. Maybe they don't trust themselves to make the right choices for themselves anymore. Maybe they don't trust that they can actually care about themselves enough to grow their own self-worth. So you want to tell yourself every day through your actions, I'm here. I can take care of myself. I am taking care of myself. And you would do this to yourself like you would do for a friend. So you can do this in multiple ways. You can take small moments every day. Doesn't have to be long. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, however much you can carve out or you prioritize to carve out. And you make it special. So for example, maybe while you're doing the dishes, you light a candle. You go out, you buy a candle that you love the scent. Maybe you even splurge a little bit so that it's a really, candle that's made without chemicals, toxins, and you're like, wow, you know what? I know this candle is beautiful and I'm going to light it while I'm doing chores, right? It's something special you're doing to just honor yourself. It's like this little special moment. It doesn't sound like it does a lot, but it really does make a difference when you can make this part of your daily practice. Another example is that maybe you make your space that you spend time in a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Maybe on your desk at work, you buy a beautiful plant that you love. Every time you look at it, it brings you joy. Maybe you have a mug that has a saying on it that just makes you smile or encourages you. Maybe in your home space, you buy some new pillows for your couch and it brightens your day when you walk through the door at the end of the day to see them. So even just bringing in beauty and making your environment something that you enjoy spending time in can actually help you to kind of get that sense that you are taking care of yourself. You are nourishing yourself. You can also wear something that's a symbol of your progress or a symbol of your dedication to showing up for yourself. I meant to wear it today, but I forgot to put it on. I used to wear a little skinny red bracelet with beads on it, and the 3 beads would symbolize kind of the 3 pillars of this process that I created. It's called the red process, and my bracelet was red. So the first bead would symbolize restore. It reminded me to always restore the connection that I have with myself. When I feel disconnected from myself, that's when I feel like crap. Okay, so the second bead was to remind me to always elevate, which was to prioritize learning and bringing the skills and the growth into my life that I need to help myself move forward. The third bead on that bracelet, I used to symbolize the D of red, which is dare. Dare to be courageous in taking the steps, stepping out of my comfort zone to do the things that maybe I might not normally do. And so this was a symbol that I could see on my wrist all the time, all day long, reminding me of my intentions, reminding me of how much progress I was making from day to day in those 3 areas. So that's something else that you can do. You can wear something, a piece of jewelry, I don't know, whatever, that reminds you of that. You can also just do something as simple as prepping a healthy meal for yourself. You're taking care of yourself by literally nourishing your body with healthy ingredients. Another thing that you can do is you can take an extra 5 to 10 minutes to spend time on how you look when you leave for the day. Maybe you take an extra moment to do your hair in a cute way. Maybe you buy earrings that just make you feel a little bit extra. Maybe you wear a beautiful color that it just makes you feel more vibrant. I know that for me, when I wear colors that I consider drab, I feel kind of like blah all day. But when I wear colors that I love, which are for me personally, are vibrant, I feel better. And actually, colors in themselves hold specific vibrations. So if there's like a certain way you want to feel, go ahead and Google what color helps me feel more vibrant, what color helps me feel more energized, what color helps me feel more loving. Like, wear the color. Why not? Help yourself in every way possible. So to recap, 3 areas. I don't want to give you too much, and I know I gave you a lot of examples today, but I don't want to give you too many action steps because I know that this time is overwhelming and you don't need more to-do lists on your plate. You already are dealing with enough. Even if you choose just one thing from this video and just do it as consistently as possible, you will experience the benefits. You will be making progress. So again, to recap, focusing your energy on one or these or all of these 3 areas. How can I emotionally purge, get out what needs to come out? How can I involve my physical body in my healing process? And number 3, how can I practice self-care every single day, even if it's small? How can I prioritize myself, my care? Leave your action steps in the comments, okay? What is the 1 or 3 things that you are going to focus on? Leave any questions that you have about anything that I've brought up today. Leave any ideas that you have that work for you. I want this to be a community where we can help and share with each other. I want us to read someone else's comment and be like, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that. I want us to be supportive. Read someone else's comment and be like, you've got this. Okay. So let us know how we can support each other. I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. This way you can keep on coming back to learn more about how you can alchemize your love life. And I talk about love in 3 levels: loving yourself, loving your relationships, and love your life. Let's transform everything that you're going through into something beautiful so that you can truly flourish. Check out my next video and I will see you again soon.